Before the sun rose, smoke curled from the far end of the market. Mama Ejiro's stall was alive before any other vendor struck a match. The air carried a sharp, sweet aroma that crawled into bedrooms, pulled men from their wives' sides, and drew boys from sleep with empty bowls in hand. By the time traders spread their vegetables, a crowd had already formed. Old men leaning on sticks, young men with restless eyes, women pretending to pass by but stopping at the smell, everyone gathered. Then came the rich, cars gliding to a stop on dusty ground, polished shoes sinking into red earth as their owners joined the same line as beggars. Her food looked simple, steaming rice, thick stew, pepper soup that bubbled and hissed. But when a spoon touched the tongue, it was like fire and honey at once. Men closed their eyes, licking fingers, forgetting who they were. No one could explain it, and no one dared ask. Mama Ejiro only smiled faintly, ladle steady, watching as bowls returned empty, then licked clean. She knew they were not just eating food. They were swallowing a secret. Her stall was nothing more than wood and rusted zinc, its benches cracked, the ground muddy. Yet it became the throne of the market. Other vendors sat with arms folded, their soups untouched, while all paths led to Mama Ejiro. Soon, coins and notes were not enough. One morning, she looked at the mountain of greasy plates and announced, "Wash before you eat." The crowd laughed, thinking it a joke. But when she turned her ladle away, they dropped pride immediately. Bankers removed ties, lawyers rolled up sleeves, farmers and beggars squatted side by side, their fingers raw from scrubbing. It became a sight people whispered about. Cars worth fortunes lined the road, their proud owners bent over dirty basins. Some men bruised their palms on cracked plates, yet they grinned, waiting for her food. No one complained, they called it a privilege. Whispers grew louder, "What food bends men like this?" Some said she hid charms beneath her stove. Others claimed she cooked with tears of virgins. Mama Ejiro stayed silent, and her silence became another ingredient. At night, wives waited with steaming pots of soup, their children calling out in hunger. But husbands stumbled in late, their bellies full from Mama Ejiro's stall. Some came home licking their lips, praising her cooking out loud. Quarrels broke into homes. "Is her food sweeter than mine?" women demanded. Men only laughed, shrugging, refusing to answer. The laughter cut deeper than insults. Some wives threw away their pots in shame. Others swore never to taste Mama Ejiro's food, but temptation gnawed at them. One by one, women broke their own oaths. Wrapped in shawls at night, they sneaked to her stall. They thought they would hate her food, spit it out. But after the first spoonful, tears filled their eyes, not from pepper, but from realization. Now they understood why men bowed. Her food was more than taste. It was a chain. The annual festival arrived with drums and colors. Every vendor decorated stalls with palm leaves and banners. But when the parade passed, the crowd broke ranks and swarmed Mama Ejiro's corner. Her stall became a shrine. People clapped and sang her name, Mother of Flavor, Queen of the Market. Even the town chief sat cross-legged before her, chewing meat with greasy lips, laughing like a boy. Other vendors stood abandoned. Their beans turned sour, their bread hardened, their stew dried up. Some wept openly. "This cannot be natural," they muttered. "No food can erase every tongue like this." Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said she had married the river god. Others swore she cooked with human flesh. But when asked directly, Mama Ejiro only smiled, her ladle dripping with oil. "Eat," she said softly. And they obeyed. Then came the stranger. Tall, dark, with eyes that burned. He stood in line one morning, but unlike others, he showed no impatience, no trembling hunger. When his turn came, he took his bowl, ate slowly, and fixed his gaze on Mama Ejiro. The crowd expected him to groan in pleasure, to beg for more. Instead, he wiped his mouth and asked one question. "Woman, what is inside this pot?" The market froze. Men laughed nervously, women gasped. No one had ever dared ask. Mama Ejiro's face remained calm, but her hand trembled slightly on the ladle. She gave no answer. The stranger smiled faintly. "One day, they will know." And just like that, curiosity grew sharper. The stranger stayed in town, watching. One evening, he walked past Mama Ejiro's stall and saw the unthinkable: rich men in clean suits, kneeling to wash greasy plates. Their cars, big machines with tinted glass, lined the dusty road like guards. Their owners bent like slaves at dirty basins, scrubbing side by side with beggars. The sight spread fast. Young boys mocked them. Women laughed in shame. Newspapers whispered about the madness. The once respected men felt naked. Humiliation burned into rage. "She must be using something," they spat. "We, who command respect in boardrooms, wash like errand boys in the open street. This is no food. This is witchcraft." Soon, changes began. Those who ate too often complained of strange dreams. They woke sweating, hearing faint cries in the night. Some said they saw tiny hands pulling at their throats, faces in the steam of their food. A few fell sick, but even in sickness, they returned, begging for plates. They could not stop. Their bodies trembled, but their mouths watered. The stranger pointed at them, his voice rising. "You see? It is not food. It is a chain of death." But the people shouted him down, calling him jealous. Yet when they went home, fear gnawed at them. Why did they crave food that gave them nightmares? For long, wives resisted. They cursed Mama Ejiro, calling her a thief of husbands. But hunger for answers broke their pride. Veiled in shame, they approached her stall one by one, clutching bowls. When they tasted, their anger melted. Some wept openly. "Now I understand," they whispered. They went home ashamed, for their husbands were not bewitched, they were simply conquered by taste. Soon, the whole town was caught in her net. Every family, every home, carried her flavor in their mouths. But the question remained: what is her secret? One night, the stranger stood in the market with a torch in his hand. "Listen to me," he cried. "Her pots are not clean. Her water is not holy. She feeds you with sorrow." The people hissed, throwing insults. Some men threatened to beat him. But his words stayed, echoing in their hearts. Mama Ejiro stirred her pot quietly, but inside, fear coiled. He was getting too close. The rich men who once defended her now turned against her. Their humiliation still burned. "She uses something unclean," they told the crowd. "She mocks us." They demanded answers. Mama Ejiro lifted her chin. "Eat, or leave," she said coldly. Her defiance enraged them more. The stranger smiled grimly. The storm was coming. Fear spread through the town like smoke. People still came to her stall, but they ate in silence. Some vomited afterward, not from the food, but from suspicion. Their minds played tricks. Was it blood? Flesh? Witchcraft? Yet they could not stop. Curiosity chained them stronger than fear. They needed to know what was inside the pot. At last, the stranger gathered a group. With lanterns, they followed him into the forest, down a narrow path, until they reached the river. It shimmered under moonlight, silent and black. "This is where she draws her water," he said. The people scoffed, until they looked closer. White cloths tied to sticks fluttered along the banks. The markers of grief. The places where women had laid their lifeless babies to rest. The water itself carried tiny bones, broken clay pots, the shadows of souls. A scream split the night. The truth had been uncovered. The market turned violent the next day. Mama Ejiro's stall was overturned, her pots shattered, her roof torn apart. Flames swallowed her wood and zinc. The people cursed her. "You fed us death." Men spat at her. Women tore their wrappers in grief. The same mouths that once praised her now screamed her name like a curse. She stood in the middle of the flames, silent, her eyes burning with defiance. That night, barefoot, Mama Ejiro walked to the river, her ladle in one hand, her pot in the other. Villagers followed at a distance, too afraid to stop her. She stepped into the dark current slowly, her dress floating like a shroud. "You gave me power," she whispered, "and I used it well." The river swallowed her. She never came out again. Years passed, but her name lived on. Children whispered her tale by moonlight. Elders told it as warning of the woman who enslaved a whole town with food until her secret was revealed. No one fetched water from the river again. But sometimes, when night was deep and wind carried strange scents, people swore they smelled pepper soup drifting across the market. And if you listened closely, you could hear the faint cry of babies in the current. Mama Ejiro was gone, but her curse was never forgotten. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe for more stories.